Good to go. Sean, you want to
Good
kick
to
it?
go. All right. So listen, I wanted to welcome everybody to the Boss Juice podcast. This will be episode 4, I believe. So it's cool. We're getting some traction and we're getting in front of some really some fun guests that we love to interview. And today's guest is Greg Peluso from Heritage Security and Service.
Correct. Correct.
And land title insurance.
It is.
That's pretty much your thing. And one of the things that caused me to think that this would be a neat little interview with you, we talked early on about background and family stories. And we come to realize, the two of us, that there are a lot of common threads between circles and people that we knew that were in the real estate industry and things like that. But tell me and Antonino a little bit about how you got into this. And I'm going to ask you some other things down the road because I know you're a hobbyist and it's just not a normal hobby. I want to hear how this ties into the business. But tell me how you got into this. Let's hear a little peek behind the curtain thing that we talk about.
Well, it was nothing I desired to ever do. Being a family business, you kind of like, you need to fill in the holes sometimes. And I'm still filling in the hole from 1996. So a few years have gone by. Basically just of my short family history, I could go on and on. It really started as my grandfather was in multiple businesses before, but probably one of the businesses he was known the best for is he owned a fine men's clothing store in New Brighton called Peluso Brothers. Matter of fact, in our office, we have one of the signs still from there.
I saw that sign.
That's a real sign. It's a real sign. It's a real sign. They used to be on the main street in New Brighton. They were the men's clothing store. Once again, that doesn't help you much because it's nothing to do with real estate. But later during his second or third retirement, he decided to get into real estate. So he lassoed up his two boys, my father, John, and my uncle, Mark, and they started a real estate company together.
Time frame, when was this about? Just case?
Late 70s, early 80s, when those things started coming together. And basically, what happened from there is my father slowly was the last one left in the company that they started called Crestwood Realty. And, of course, my father he's an entrepreneur. He tries a lot of stuff. Things don't always work. Things do. He decided back then to try that one-stop shopping in a way. So he created his own title company. And that company, he didn't know what he was doing. He's a real estate guy. So he always had somebody running that company for him. Cliff Note version, he got rid of that one company and then created Heritage in around 1990. When I was getting out of college, of course, I was an idiot, didn't know what I wanted to do. Played college tennis. I thought like that was going to go on forever. Was a teaching pro. And I think he was a little unhappy with what I was doing with myself. And he said, hey, I need somebody to jump in his title company for me. And problem was, he didn't know anything about it. I jumped in and had to learn from our employees. And it was a temporary situation. And like I said, that was in 96, and I'm still here today.
Was it something that you enjoyed?
Boy, I'd like to say it was something that provided an income that allowed me to feel like an adult. And I felt like I was going into the next stage of my life. I honestly couldn't imagine that I was going to still be in this industry. And our company is nothing of what it was before. I mean, back then, that would have been considered an in-house company. We already had clients. He already had a real estate company. So I didn't know how to go out. I didn't have to go out and market much. I just had to convince the people that were already employees of ours that I kind of knew what I was doing to use us. So I guess in a way that was nice, and it let me see a different side of the business. As time went on, he wanted to get out of real estate. He didn't really want to get out of real estate. He wanted to get out of the struggle of owning a real estate company. And it was time for, we either needed to grow the real estate company or we needed to sell. And that's when he started going out and getting offers. A lot of the offers had affected me personally. Some of these people were afraid that I was they were going to pay him money and I was going to go out and start my own real estate company. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. There's no way I could have done that. But, and he came to me, he says, "Hey, do you want this company?" And I told him no. I said, "I don't want Crestwood Realty. I don't know what I'm doing. That's not me." I think if I could go back, I think I would have taken that company. I didn't know I was going to still be here to this day. But I was more concerned about my parents. I was more concerned about my father. I had my own financial to take care of, my own financials. And being in a family company, regardless of what people see from the outside and think, I wanted my father to be able to retire. Yes, there was ebb and flow. He had money, he didn't have money, one of those things. And I was just afraid that I didn't want to have to worry about him. And I thought it was the best thing for him to sell that company. I'm very glad he could have gotten a little more money from a few other people, but those people, like I was saying earlier, they wanted me to sign non-competes. I wasn't getting paid money. I ran an ancillary company. He ended up finding a fit that worked, that allowed me to stay an independent, and he go off and sell the company, and I had a contract with that company. It was Howard Hanna at the time. I learned a lot. I didn't know anything about corporate America then. You know, we were a family-owned business. Only things I knew was what my father told me, what I experienced from other people. I got to see him not be in charge. I got to see him have to listen to other people. Funny story is, probably the second day after he sold the company, he didn't like something he was told. You know, they held things back. And I remember him storming out of we were on 3rd Street, and I remember him storming out of the office saying, I want to be able to buy this back. And I remember going out there with him, trying to calm him down, understanding his frustrations. But in the end, I think I wanted him to still feel successful about himself. And he was successful. But it was tough. It was really tough. And believe it or not working for the same company and me wanting him to have something better actually hurt my company, because for the first time I was starting to be left on my own, that I had to hunt, that I call it. I had to go out there and start getting own clients. I had to go out there and educate people. Hey, I'm not owned by that Howard Hanna. I'm an independent company. And I mean, that took 7-8 years.
I want to back up for 1 second.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm rambling.
No. The rambling is sharing the story, but there are things that come out of your mouth that cause me to think of other questions and things like that. But the family side of it. So with these family businesses, it can be a blessing and a curse, right?
Well,
based on that, and based on your history and your experience, for our audience who might be considering going in, starting a business with a family member, a brother, a sister, an uncle, whatever the case might be, what kind of things do you think are important for people to look for or to watch for? The family you can trust, for the most part.
yes.
At least you believe you can, right? But then there's all these other dynamics like leniency,
Spouses.
things you might do for a spouse that's involved with this business versus a paid employee. You know what I mean? Talk a little bit about that, because I know you've seen a lot of things.
Well, also too here, where we're at my company at Heritage, my younger brother works for me here. So I'm still we're still running that family type business to a certain extent. It's tough. Some of the hurdles, I always like to say, I know you've probably seen OCC Chopper. I think every once in a while my brother and I can get to that, we can get to that level, but you can get to that level with a family member that you can't get to with an employee, nor would you, or is it right to?
So similar situation, my company, my software company, I would say the two people that I talk to the most on a day-to-day basis, or three people I talk to on the most on a day-to-day basis, one is my uncle, one is a good friend of mine, the other one is my cousin. And it's a very weird gray line.
It is.
Because it's like, I trust them more in a way, but it's also, though, I think I expect more from them. And I think that kind of,
Are you in charge of all of them?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like,
Were you younger than all of them, obviously?
well, I'm older. I'm the same age as one, older than the one cousin, and then my uncle is obviously
Okay.
older than me.
Yeah. Right in the middle.
Yeah, and so like my uncle's, it's a weird scenario because I kind of lean on him a lot of things because he has a lot more experience, especially with like business negotiations and dealings. That's like something that like I've gotten a lot better at over the past couple years, but that experience is invaluable.
Yes.
Because I remember when I got my first contract, had he not been there, I probably would have been walked all over because I didn't know what I was looking for. All I was seeing was a number figure. I'm like, let me hit that number. And I remember him saying like, well, yeah, that's a good number, but make sure that somewhere in there that they're covering any travel expenses or fees for X, Y, and Z. And I was like, that never crossed my mind. So like the experience thing is really good, but also kind of can persuade. It can be the experience is a good and bad thing because I can learn from his mistakes, but at the same time there's some things where he might be advising me or suggesting something and I'm like, what, that might be old school. And ultimately, as like an entrepreneur, as a a leader, you have to be able to kind of take all the different aspects and say, well, I'm still going to go ahead forward with this decision. But when it's family and friends, you kind of, they say it's not personal, it's business. It makes things a little bit personal.
Yeah. I think it also depends what type of temperament you have.
Sure.
I think there's something that, like, going back to, like you were saying with the family, there's probably a lot of times I could have treated them better. That just because I can talk to somebody like one way doesn't mean I should. And I probably don't tell my brother, which I'm telling him now, I guess, that he does a good job. I'm sure he hears from me criticisms more often than he says you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
And I think probably with family members, I mean, I didn't come from we weren't the most huggy family either. So, it was just, I think we show affection different depending on how your family is in a business, if you're a very affectionate family. But I mean, I think we're still growing to these days. And I know there's something that my father told me about with his brother that I think is pretty true with my brother and I. He would have one point of view. My uncle would have one point of view when they worked at the real estate company. They would strongly tell each other how they were wrong. However, they would go to bed, and my father said there was many times that's when he actually digested, and there were many times that they went back the next day Said, hey, I can see your side. I can see your point of view of things.
That's big.
Yeah, and I think that that's important to be able to do that, because maybe with non-family members, it's harder to do that with. It's harder.
Antonino used the word expectations.
Yes.
And I think that is like, that's monumental when you talk about working with family members, because again, there's that leniency sometimes, but you can also be way harder on a family member than you would another person. But I think it all ties back to your expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important when you're getting into business with family members or friends that you sort out all of those different things. Greg, you brought up a point about temperament. Everybody's wired differently.
Yes.
I go from, I'm pretty one speed most of the time, and then I can go from 0 to prison really quickly. It's just the way that I'm wired. I can't control it sometimes.
I'm working on that. That's me, Sean. I'm working on that.
But yeah, so the expectations, I think, are a big piece of this. And it was really cool the way that you layered out the how this thing developed.
Yeah.
With your business. So on a daily basis, talk a little bit about the type of clients you serve, what the interactions are, because land title insurance, it's not the sexiest topic.
No, my kids don't want me to come into career day. They don't.
Think of the other side of it is when you roll the dice and risk losing everything when you don't have this type of backing.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about the customers you serve, and a little bit about that industry. What is really important for people to know about this?
Well,
on top of that is just like for the listeners and honestly for myself, because I'm not gonna lie, I looked this up last night a little bit, but can you explain what land title insurance actually is? 'Cause I don't know that I didn't hear about it until Sean kind of was telling me about your whole story.
So this is the way I like to simplify it. It's a service with a guarantee. Okay. Back in the mid 70s, you would see, even into the 80s, you would see more attorneys providing closing services. So you and your realtor find a home, and you've written a contract. I'm not writing the contract. That's already sorted out with you and your realtor. But somebody needs to handle the transfer of the property. That's what we're doing. We're transferring the property. Okay. Before title insurance, attorneys used to just do their own research. And what they did is they would give you a letter of guarantee. Hey, I think everything's fine with this title. You can come back on me if there's something wrong. Well, think about that. You're going to go after an attorney if there's something wrong that was your attorney. So you're going to have to get another attorney if he did something wrong to go after that attorney. So if that attorney got run over by a car, your guarantee is gone. Even if he's the best guy in the world, there's nothing you do. So what the insurance industry came up with is, hey, what if we come up with a way to guarantee that service? There's a insurance policy backing up to take care of your level of risk. You buy something we're just going to use a number, $100,000. You get $100,000 title insurance policy, which means that you're covered for any issues, taxes, unsatisfied mortgages, maybe outside interest, inheritance tax, liens against any of the prior owners, things that could have been missed. And they can be missed very easily. So I wish I just wrote title insurance policies, because I'm here. If I wrote title insurance policies, that means that someone did the transfer and I'm like, yep, I looked at everything. Here you go. Here's a policy. No, unfortunately, we're doing the service. We are taking the contract. We're coordinating with the realtors, the buyers, the sellers, the mortgage company that's lending the money. Okay, we're coordinating all those things. We're putting all of their figures, the wishes between the mortgage company and the buyer and the seller. Don't forget the real estate agents need paid. We need to get their figures on this settlement sheet. So we act as the middleman. We research the property. We make sure that the taxes are paid. If not, we're paying taxes. We get the mortgage payoff. We take care of all those things. We perform the closing. We then go record the documents. At the very end of everything, that when we're done, we send you an insurance policy. So writing the policy is very little of what we do. It's the service that we provide, that we're providing, that what the attorneys used to do on their own, which in the end of the day, some of my best clients are attorneys that don't do these closings anymore. It's not worth their while. We can do it quicker. We can do it faster. And even if attorneys do closings now, they're writing title insurance, by the way. So sorry for the long answer, but I like to equate it. It's a service with a guarantee. It's not just selling title insurance.
Well, based on some of the clients that you serve,
Yes.
it's not only the people that are looking to purchase property,
No.
home, building, whatever the case might be, but you mentioned like attorneys. There's probably financial people,
Yes.
strategists, tax strategists,
Yes.
and others involved with this. Now, Greg's office is located in Beaver, Pennsylvania. Gorgeous building. This has to be, out of all the clients that I work with, this is one of the nicest offices. It's a setting conducive for conducting business with several people sitting at a table. It's a great office environment. And I think that you were at a different location a little over a year ago.
Yes.
Year and a half, something like
Year and a half ago, yes.
And this is
Still in Beaver, but yes.
It's the same city, but this is way different space. Super accommodating and impressive for, I think, the people that come here. I mean, you can tell it's a really nice, well-kept place. Everything's super organized here. You have great staff.
Thank you.
That you work with. I love working with everybody here.
Thank you.
Great people. And I was excited for Antonino and our film crew with Dylan to come here and check this place out too. But so back on the audiences you serve, you talked a little bit about your description of how this insurance.
Yes.
So you talk a little bit more about who you serve and what happens here at this office.
Well, I mean, boy, that's a change. That's an ever-changing audience. I know right before we started this, we were talking about who is your audience and whatnot. And I'm going to say my favorite clients are still the family buying a home. That's still probably our number one priority, putting families in homes. I mean, that's rewarding. I feel it's rewarding. One thing I didn't like about our business, I always envied people that could go around and say, I built that, I created that. I don't have that type of satisfaction. It's taken me a while to realize the satisfaction is that person getting a home that they wanted. Now, those are favorites for me. Yes, I've also had bad ones. They turn into fistfights sometimes too. Watch what you get, because we'll have divorced people and we've got to put people in corners. But other clients are investors. We deal with some people out of the country that are buying properties in areas that don't make a lot of sense to me. But they feel that they're good investments. And if they feel that they're good investments, they must be for them. Things must be working. We have these investors just buying properties, then renting them out. Other clients, we do have commercial. Before you guys got here, I was talking on a conference call with someone buying a commercial building in this town. It's sort of going to be a big deal. There's been some privacy around it. Matter of fact, what I did is I even told that client, it's like, hey, can you keep this under wraps? And I said, well, the problem is when I send over my order to searchers, to tax collectors, the cat's going to get out of the bag, but this is what we can do. I put myself down as the buyer, just my company. And It's funny. Then people think I'm buying things.
Anonymity, right?
Couldn't buy it really if I wanted to right now. But we just had to have that conversation that it's time for let that cat out of the bag. And so that is more of a non-emotional type closing also. It's going to be a commercial space. It's not going to change. We're not going to see emotions. We may not even have anyone here. It may just be handled through sending documents and whatnot. We're having more and more of that. We're having less people come to closings. But those are one of our clients. And the other client too are people refinancing. And I know people are going to say, oh, nobody's refinancing right now. Rates are up, blah, 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 blah. There are always refinances out of necessity. I'll give you two of them. Divorce. It's terrible. Somebody wants to keep the home. They're going to have to refinance to get that person out of title. And right now we have people that aren't excited because they might be at 3.5%. But because they want to move on with their life, they're going to have to go into 5.5% interest rate to pay off the spouse. The other is necessity too. It's time I want to do an addition to my house. Great way people are pulling out of equity out of their home and doing things. So those are other clients that we have. Also, I mean, I still like the families. I do.
Well, I think that brings a little bit of newness to what you do every time. It's because it's a different situation, different scenario. You talk
Hearing people's stories.
Circumstances. Yeah, exactly. That's why we do the Boss Juice podcast.
Listen, you come to my closing, it could end up into a little interview.
You should do that.
Should do a mock closing.
Yeah. I love learning. I love weird people too. I love people to do crazy things.
We're all weird.
Yeah, we're all weird.
So speaking of weird things, I talked to Antonino a little bit about your hobby, but I didn't get into any detail. Greg enjoys competing with race cars.
Yes.
And it's a super specialized sport. I want to hear a little bit about that hobby and maybe how it impacts business one way or the other. I know some people, they love the golf because of the business relationships and things like that.
I'm bad at
This hobby may or may not be, as a result of that. Business may not result, but it might. Tell us a little bit about this hobby, what you enjoy outside of here, and if it has an impact, and how does it impact this business?
Well, it's interesting. Like, as a child growing up, like I said, my father being a business owner, my father really doesn't have any hobbies. So work was his hobby in a way. And the only thing that the one hobby he did pass down to me was tennis. So I did that my entire life. I was always into racing though. But that was a different world back then. My father knew nothing about it. We just, I wanted to get into go-karts. So I dreamed about go-karts when I was a little kid. Okay, I just dreamed about them. But pursued what I did, played tennis. I did all right. I went on and played in college, played small Division I. But tennis is a sport that is an individual sport. It's not a team sport. And it takes a certain type of person you're there by yourself.
Venus Williams.
Yeah, it never happened. Never happened. Please, I saw John McEnroe get into trouble about trying to equate. So we're not going down that road. Okay. But it takes a headstrong person. And what's funny is racing is the same person. I see the same type of person race. So I don't know how once I was married, I put some car together and my wife encouraged me, believe it or not, she probably wishes she didn't now. And I went to just an open track day. Knew nothing about what I was doing. Thought I knew about racing. No idea. Had a horrible experience. Absolutely terrible. I had this instructor. He had us in trouble. I went home. I was just defeated. And my wife said, go back tomorrow. I said, no. I said, I made a mistake. She's going to regret. She regrets saying this. I went back the next day, had a different instructor. The world was different. And till this day, that's when it all sprouted. And I've raced many different types of cars. I've raced BMWs. I've raced Porsches. I've raced Miatas. Currently, I'm racing open wheel cars. They look like little Indy type cars. Called an F2000. Same sort of thing. I actually just came back from a race weekend. Did horrible. Absolutely horrible. It rained all weekend. Yes, we raced in the rain. I turned left. I turned right. This isn't going around in a circle. I appreciate that type of racing, but I don't know anything about it. Never done it.
Yeah.
I was on Poconos Raceway one time, and part of the oval we used, and a total appreciation. I remember coming in and being thought I was up against the wall. I come into the pits. I was like, guys, did you see me? I was right up against the wall. They're like, you were like 10 feet away from the wall. But, but racing really had nothing to do with my business. But what happened is I started making relationships in racing. And I will tell you, I have met some of the coolest people in the world racing. I don't just race around here. I go down south. I've raced in Texas where they raced that Formula One race.
Big Formula One guy. Love Formula One.
You're a Formula One guy?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, my car has its Ferrari livery right now.
No way.
Yeah.
Obviously, my name's Antonio Fabero, a very Italian family.
Yeah.
I grew up watching Ferrari since I was like 3.
Yes. Yeah.
Michael Schumacher, like that era. I would go to Indianapolis when they would have the races. So
You were there for the race where only a few cars went out because of tires? Were you there for
no, I was not there for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was a tire issue, and they didn't have one spec tire, and
Oh, wow.
there was an issue with tires blowing up, and so half the field didn't race. Like, big deal for the U.S. Grand Prix.
And like people don't talk about Formula One's now becoming more popular because there's a Netflix show and ESPN picked up a contract. Because you said I used to watch on Speed Network, whatever it was.
Yeah. And it was Speed Vision before that.
Yeah, and it's becoming a lot more popular, but I don't think people appreciate how hard racing is. I always tell my friends that they're starting to watch now. I'm like, you don't understand. It's an engineering feat.
It is.
Those cars are incredible.
It is.
And the driver, they have the reflexes, the gear shifting, and then you're trying to race another car. It's not and on top, I would make the argument too that that's one of the very few sports that those people actually risk their life every time they go out there.
Yes.
I mean, think about that.
Yes.
I mean, what other sport? I mean, people have died playing sports, during a game. But I mean, I can name 4 or 5 Formula One drivers that have died racing.
Thank God Formula One was a point in time that they didn't care about the driver's safety.
Mm-hmm.
They have changed that to a certain degree, but the speeds and things can happen. Oh, things do happen and have happened. Thank goodness they have not had as many catastrophes, tragedies. But I mean, in club racing, people have died.
Yeah.
What we do, that's stupid. It might be stupid.
Well, the thing is, you mentioned a little bit about how there are some parallels to business. You said you met some really cool people,
Yes.
interesting people. But the other side of it, too, is, okay, I have a Harley, right? And my Harley, I don't do it for the social aspect. It's just time. Sometimes it's stress release therapy just to get out. It's an escape from a crazy day. Do you see your racing hobby working on the cars? Because you have a wonderful garage and a really neat setup. Do you see that as an escape too from it sometimes?
Boy, you know what, Sean? I ride motorcycles just like you.
Yeah, I remember when you're
Yes, I've hit a deer with on them. Yes.
when we first met, you had already been going through therapy and things like that.
Yes.
You had a pretty injured arm.
Yes. Yes.
And I don't know is it a hip or knee or something like that? You were
It's
banged up.
I got banged up pretty good. I have a crooked finger out of it.
It's a reminder.
It's a reminder. But I own 3 more motorcycles still to this day. Sold them all. didn't realize I was stupid and bought them back. But going back to, you know what? It's, boy, it's not very relaxing. I'll be honest with you. There are, just like you pointed out, and I don't think people understand. There are some cars that I could race that take less technical knowledge. The cars I'm racing now are pretty simplistic, but there is aero, there's shocks, and I have just a fragment of that information, knowledge. And you have to lean on a lot of different people. You have to lean on mechanics. And it's the same thing, though, too. Everybody has different opinions. You can skin that cat so many different ways. So you have to take some information you want to take, some you don't. This weekend it rained at Mid-Ohio. Boy, I couldn't make any more wrong car decisions. Rain, standing the tires up, taking camber out, changing the wings. I got it wrong. So I think my wife always says, geez, why do you keep doing something that is so frustrating and so hard? I think it's for the fact that it's challenging and I love it. I do. And I really think it's just seeing, boy, there are people from every single field. You will find very, very, very successful people in life that have disposable income you can't imagine, to other people that they have good jobs, but they're doing the same thing that others are doing, just on a little tighter budget. So it's really me just seeing a different side of life.
It's so crazy because me knowing you the way that I know you and know of you, I think that this hobby couldn't help but, as far as decision making, because you talk about, I made a mistake. I did that, I think it's the same thing in business.
Mm-hmm.
You look at strategy, you look at ideas, you look at decisions, choices you make, and it's all connected in some weird way.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have such a unique hobby, and I know that's not a cheap sport to get into by any means. But
and that's probably, I'll be honest with you, that's probably why, if you see any of my social media, you see very little of my racing there. You don't. I don't want people to get the wrong idea. I don't do anything because I want people to think it's cool. There's a lot of things I do that people think are stupid, but there's a lot of things I do that people think are cool. But that doesn't affect why I do any of these things. Some of the motorcycles I love, Sean, people would hate. I like quirky bikes, things like that. You are that traditional Harley guy. You love that bike. That's an awesome bike. I bought a bike last year that you'd probably make fun of. It's a Royal Enfield Scram 411. It might be the slowest bike in the world. Something about it, it's just quirky. I like it. I wouldn't expect some Harley guys to even give me the wave when I go by it.
I love quirky things too.
Okay.
And I love design and style and color palettes. Honestly, those things, those all really help me with the marketing and branding business. In your industry too, the hobby industry, the side of it, there are terms and words and things like that people use. It's the same thing in some of the circles I'm in. I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't think I could repurpose that language, that ideology, that strategy can be from a garbage company to a law office. They're common threads. It's so weird.
Yeah.
But it's cool when we interview people like you and we start to get, again, that peek behind the curtain.
Yes.
Get a different feel for what these businesses are about. And I love being able to share this with our audience. It's a growing audience right now. This podcast, the Boss Juice podcast, it's in its infancy. And it's important for us to sit down with people like you to pull these stories and have these things pushed out there. I think people learn a lot from this.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all about the human connection too. You brought up a really interesting point about racing. Your first lesson with that instructor, and you went home and you're like, it's not for me. And your wife encouraged you to go back, had a different instructor, and you're off to the races for, no pun intended there. But you know, that, I run a service-based business. Sean runs a service-based business. You're very much running a service-based business. And it's like people, especially in my generation, I talked about this on a previous episode as well. The human connection in business is so important. People have this misconception that it's all about, getting out there and, getting your name out there and then having people buy a product or buy a service. And that's very much true. Like there's a numbers game to it. But I truly believe the companies that succeed are the ones that have capitalized on that human connection, giving a good service, giving a good customer, customer service, customer interaction. If they don't like and trust you, they're never going to come back. There's similar with the race driving situation. I think that's like so important. And like you said, how you meet a bunch of different people. I would guarantee that like that human connection played a big role in everyone's success. Even with racing or any type of sport, just having that connection with other humans to like work together as a team is invaluable.
Well, it also tries to figure out who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And I still don't know who I am always. I mean, I know, boy, that sounds terrible. He's not a very confident person, has to know exactly who they are. But are you the same person 20 years ago? Or are you going to keep playing that role? I've noticed even in racing, I know you guys brought it up. I could talk about racing all day. Like, I am at a different stage in racing. I need to find more. Winning is not what it's about for me anymore. I have a harder time doing it, so I'm trying to accept that. But I have to enjoy it, and maybe setting levels, realistic expectations. I remember getting in the car even this weekend, and it started drying up, and I didn't know what I was doing. And the type of form of racing that I do is actually more dangerous than others, which I'm starting to think about myself. That open wheel, when we touch tires, cars go flying in the air. I've been hit. I've had cars fly over me. I've been in bad accidents. We don't have the level of safety as F1. Our cars are closer. They're two frame cars. I need to start. I put myself in less risk situations than I used to. Matter of fact, I had a little accident this weekend that another driver was upset, hit the back of my car, and it didn't scare me, but it also, I got damaged, he got damaged, people were upset. What are we doing this for? And sometimes I need to figure out what enjoyment am I getting out of this? But like I was saying, right when I was getting back in the car, gentleman that I had working with me this weekend, I said, hey, let's just beat somebody. Sounds terrible. I lowered the expectation, but I want to stay in motorsports no matter what, even if I'm not a driver. Maybe someday I just own a car. And in club racing, that sounds silly, but I think I could enjoy that once I can't drive it. And, but that going back is, I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago. I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago. So how do I get into these transitions? Even at this company, I'm not who I was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
being acceptable to those changes.
Things change, it's just like entrepreneurship. I tell Sean this all the time. In my opinion, my biggest asset right now is my age. I'm young.
Mm-hmm.
I have nothing to lose. I have no family. I have no kids to provide for. No one but myself. And I can live off of saltines, I'm willing to take greater risks now. Now, you fast forward 5 years from now, 10 years from now, probably not in the same boat. Probably be a lot more conservative on how I spend my money and how I make business decisions, And so you're absolutely right. As you gain more experience and you grow older, your life changes, and that affects how you make, decisions in life, but also in business.
Yeah, this is terrible, but I feel guilt out of it. Sometimes feel guilty for spending the money. I feel guilty sometimes for something I might miss. And I'm noticing those things more and more. My daughter's going away to college this year.
Nice.
And so, I guess sometimes I pretend it's not happening, but it is happening. But wow, it's not going to be the same. It's not going to be the same.
It's weird when you talk about progression, and let's pair that up with business. A lot of people don't think about when it's time to sell their business or to close a business or hang up the spikes, so to speak. But I think we all go through these transitions, these learning, these experiences, life experiences, these things that smack you in the mouth some days. Other days it's like the most rewarding and most fun thing. Other days you're like, what in the hell am I doing? We all go through these things. And I think for the people that are considering a startup, have that entrepreneurial bug, you can go through all these phases, same phases. And it'll be interesting to see for different people how, like when you've paired a hobby up with, not with your business, but it's an escape from the business, but based on the things you're sharing, there's still a lot of common threads.
I'm trying to connect the dots, trying to make a connection more and more. I've gotten real estate deals, closings from my hobby. I've also probably given other people business that I've met. I met authors. I remember sitting in a meeting. I met Patrick Dempsey once. Like we and I was just like, and this was before Grey's Anatomy. It was like right when Grey's Anatomy were going on. I remember sitting in a meeting and like, that's Can't Buy Me Love. I could remember his name. I know that's terrible. Like I know it then, but that was the movie that I could remember him from. I'm like, oh my goodness, Can't Buy Me Love. And just meeting and seeing all these different people, that some of them have turned into some business relationships.
Well, a lot of them are probably saying, oh my gosh, it's Greg Peluso from here.
I doubt anybody says that, or if they brought the other way.
You never know though. And
ask your profound question that you ask during these interviews.
So
by the way, you and I are more alike because I've watched one of your other podcasts.
Really?
I've got no ink.
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say, I forgot to ask the original.
I've got no ink.
So, yeah.
That's awesome.
So
not against it. I kind of feel bad that I don't have ink sometimes.
I don't got any either.
Okay. Yeah. Because I heard the one that you were saying, geez, it almost makes me want to get a tattoo.
Get a tattoo. Yeah. Because that's like one of the first things we always ask is, just kind of get things rolling. It slipped my mind. I apologize. But usually it's, we ask like if you have any tattoos to kind of get things rolling. So obviously you don't.
I have no ink.
Have you ever thought about getting one?
Wait, I feel like that's like going back to, like, I feel like I pigeonholed myself as a person that would be ridiculous to get a tattoo, but I'm probably not. So I don't know if I was pretending to be someone I wasn't, and then I felt out of place getting a tattoo, but I think they're cool. Actually, one of the ladies at work here, she has a sleeve. I saw on Facebook, her husband actually showed very cool. Very cool. But no, I don't have ink. But I thought that was interesting because I saw that you said that because your last podcast. You've got nice tats.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You're a great tattoo artist too. I'd love to interview him pretty soon. But anyhow, so Anthony always throws out this question about a profound statement. What would you?
Yeah. So one of the last questions I always ask a guest, and it's because, the whole kind of idea of this show is to inspire entrepreneurship and kind of help people, get their story out there. But if you could give one word of advice to a young entrepreneur starting a new business, what would it be?
Don't quit. Don't quit. You're going to fail. Keep trying. Be better. Be better. I really think it's that simple. I really do. I really do. I mean, we're kidding ourselves a lot of times when we tell her, I tried as hard as I could. Did you? Did you really?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you look back and see, no, I could have done this better. It's hard to self-criticize. It's maybe easier to do that privately because you find yourself maybe defending yourself to other people. Other people giving you, I know I was always one of the people that when I took advice, I didn't take it as advice. I took it as criticism because I was stupid. But take it, don't react, go back, privately reflect, be better.
I think there's two sides to that too. I think sometimes we're our worst critics. I'm a person that doesn't want accolades and pat myself on the back and all these other things.
I'm uncomfortable.
I just know that I want to get something done and I want to do a great job every time that I can. And I fail too every single day. I come up short, and that's kind of what pushes me to work harder for clients, come up with different ideas, be a better version of me. Sometimes that's a really hard thing to do.
Yeah. Do you feel uncomfortable with compliments?
Yeah, very. I never wanted the star on my forehead. Even when I worked in the corporate world, I don't want that. My acknowledgement that you get.
You don't want it, or are you uncomfortable?
Both. I think that I want my satisfaction is knowing I did a great job for my client, and that's no BS, no, just grandiose kind of a statement. I really want to see my clients do well. When you can take an idea from the air and turn it into something really cool and help a person's business, that's really what I love. But how do we want to roll this out now? You see, you gave us some advice for the entrepreneur, the person that's trying to get into it, and that's a common theme.
I was just about to
Don't
say.
quit. Those are the words that you said, and I 1,000% agree with that.
And be better.
Yeah.
I mean, being better is important because you don't know how good you could actually really be.
Well, this was great. Anything else? Throw it past Greg while we got his undivided.
Yeah, the one question I've been dying to ask because I just was super interested about it. So, how on the insurance side, how often are those insurance policies exercised? Like, is it really a common thing?
It's called a claim.
Okay.
I like to say, me personally, I've had very few claims. Okay. Our state is actually very good when it comes to claims. When you go to these seminars, all you hear about is we get into the claims section. When things go bad, they go bad. It really depends on your your settlement company of how often those things are enacted, claims or whatnot. Some of the problems don't turn into claims, by the way. There are many times that there are problems that come out that I'm able to handle and address without it turning into a claim. So that's a great question that you asked, because a lot of people will say, well, there's hardly any claims. Well, I may have mitigated the issues so it didn't turn into a claim.
Right.
I have created a settlement or fixed a situation for somebody instead of it turning into a claim. So, I like to say that it doesn't happen very often, but when it does happen, hopefully the settlement company that did your closing behind you will exercise everything they can do to correct your problem before you actually have to file a claim. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, no, it did. Yeah, I was just curious, as I think in, kind of help explain the business too. But yeah, I appreciate that.
One last thing.
Yes, sir.
Why should people come here? Why Heritage?
We consider ourselves a boutique type style agency. I think we've found our size. That being said, you're not going to be just a number. You have interaction with me if need be. Agents still can call me on the weekend. I will answer my cell phone. We have been larger. We've been smaller. I just feel like this is the right size of a company that you want servicing your real estate needs, that there's still personal connection. People, when I do closings, I still see people. It's sporting events. I see them in school events. They're part of the community. So I like I said, we've been big, we've been small. I just feel like we've now created the right size for someone to get some personal attention.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I had a lot of fun. And again, I was really looking forward to this for different reasons, because you come at this from a different angle for different reasons. I, again, love the office, love the staff. Everybody's super accommodating, and that's why you guys are going to continue to be successful here.
I hope.
Tonino?
That's all I got. Thanks for coming on. I
Hey,
appreciate
thank
it.
you guys. You did a great job.
Thank you, Greg. And our Boss Juice audience, check us out. Listen to Greg's story. And we got a few other ones out there that are worth a listen. So
Absolutely.
until next time,
Thank
take care.
you, gentlemen.
Thanks.
See ya.